Hello everyone, this is Rabbi Dovid Zirkind from the Riverdale Jewish Center with our weekly Parshat video. This week we'll read Parshat Pinchas on July 4th weekend. And as we do, one of the topics that we encounter, one of the challenging topics at the end of Sefer Bamidbar, is learning about Moshe Rabbeinu's impending death, the end of his career and the transition to which Yehoshua becomes the next leader and Moshe's successor to bring the people into the land of Israel. And there's one pasuk in particular that I want to focus on with you this week because I think it tells us a lot about that story in particular, but it also has a very deep and powerful message for us in our own lives. The Torah tells us that as Hashem prepares Moshe for his final days, he tells him to go up to the top of the mountain to take a look at the land of Israel, which he will not be able to enter. V'ra'isa osa, v'ne'esafta lamecha, you'll see the land, and then you will return to your forefathers in heaven to pass away. Ka'asher ne'asaf Aharon achicha, in the same way that your brother Aaron recently passed away as well. Rashi has two different interpretations of why Moshe's death is compared to the death of Aaron. First, he suggests it's the physical experience, the way in which Aaron died is the way that Moshe will die. And the second is that the reason for their deaths is the same. Both of them were involved in the incident of hitting the rock. Neither should assume that their death was different than the other in terms of its root cause. But the Or HaChaim has a really incredibly powerful alternative interpretation of this pasuk. And the Or HaChaim HaKadosh writes that the Yalkut Shimoni tells us, at the time of Aaron's passing, Amar lo Moshe la'Aaron, Moshe said to his brother, who knew he was about to pass away, Aaron achi, mekubal alecha lamus? Have you come to terms with your own passing? Have you accepted upon yourself that you are going to pass away? Amar lo hain. And Aaron said to his brother, yes, I have. And then Aaron went up and passed away. Moshe fought for a change in his own destiny. He debated, argued with Hashem. He prayed that he should be allowed to enter into the land of Israel in a way that Aaron didn't. And he learned from Aaron not what his death was going to look like, but how he would come to terms with his own mortality, and in particular, how he would come to terms with the fact that he had dreams that he had yet to fulfill. Aaron, who was the master of handling the most difficult of life's circumstances, even the loss of his own children, came to terms with his own death in a humble fashion, in a modest fashion, accepting the limitations of his own mortality and his own humanity. And Moshe, who desperately wanted to go into the land of Israel, Ka'asher ne'asaf Aharon achicha, is meant to learn from his brother's acceptance how to come to terms with the consequences of his own actions as well. There's much to be said about the relationship between Moshe and Aaron and how it affects the end of their lives. But I think it contains a powerful message for us too. Where do we learn humility from? Where do we learn our own sense of expectations, what we're entitled to and what we're not? Oftentimes, we feel as if we are entitled to a lot. And it's hard to come to terms with the fact that we have so much we want to do, so much we want to accomplish, and we just can't do it. The greatest way to learn it is to learn it from others. And that's clearly what the Torah is telling us. Because Moshe had not yet come to terms with his own passing, HaKadosh Baruch Hu shows him that Aaron had already modeled the path forward and how to come to terms with his own limitations. We have so much we want to accomplish, and we have to strive to strike a balance between everything that we want to accomplish and the reality that we're not going to accomplish it all. And the message here is watching and learning from Moshe Rabbeinu's own struggle with that limitation, so that the end of his days not only celebrated who he was, but the fact that he was able to appreciate that this was the end of the road. It's not about life and death, but it is about managing our own expectations, setting incredibly high goals for ourselves that also embrace who we are, what we're capable of, and what we aren't. And perhaps Moshe learns from Aaron, the person who in the face of tremendous difficulty was able to find simcha and a sense of contentment. Perhaps we learn from Aaron and Moshe that we should look to each other and see how others face the challenges and limitations of their own life to appreciate how lucky we are to have everything that we do, and maybe accept the things that are beyond our reach. Much can be learned from the life of Moshe Rabbeinu, even though it was different from the lives that we lead. There's so much to be said about how we live our lives, and from Aaron and Moshe, I hope we can find tremendous inspiration for our failures, but more importantly, for our successes. I want to wish everybody a wonderful holiday weekend and a Shabbat Shalom in advance. If you're here in Riverdale, we look forward to seeing you at the RJC this Shabbos.